The following podcast is an enticing media production.
Where the Nell have you been? Join us for conversation about life, business, and everything in between. Welcome to What the Nell, where we've got stories to tell. Here's your host, Nell Tice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the What the Nell podcast with yours truly, Nell Tice. You can probably hear it in my voice and see it on my face. I am smiling and still laughing because my guest today is pretty awesome, and we were just laughing and having a real conversation that we are going to continue here on this podcast. So I'm really excited to talk to my guest today, Reesy Neff. She is from Eastern North Carolina, so you may hear a little bit of that accent, but she is the CEO and founder of Omega Data Security, also known as Omega Ecycles, LLC. She is also a published author and a motivational speaker. She's married to her absolute soulmate, Brent, for 16 years. Congratulations. She does have 4 stepchildren that she doesn't really like to call stepchildren. I'm sure we'll hear about that. But prior to Reesy owning this business, she spent 15 years in banking, with her last role being a regional manager responsible for 24 locations in central Pennsylvania. Because of her grandchildren and what she saw in banking, she has a great passion around protecting data and helping to make the world a greener place. Reesy, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, Nell. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, it was great to start the day with a laugh with you because it had not been a laugh earlier. So I'm excited to be with you and to have some fun and have a good conversation.
Yeah, that's what we like to do with the What the Nell podcast. It's part of the reason why I like to ask the "Do you have a What the Nell story?" question at the end of each episode, because especially as business owners and entrepreneurs, we're constantly taking ourselves so seriously, and it's all business all the time, right? And I like to keep it a little lighthearted because it doesn't have to be so crazy serious all the time. So, but tell us, how exactly did you get from banking to here, and what led you here?
Absolutely. That's a great question, because I'm sure it sounds like, well, how'd you go from this to that? But banking really prepared me for what I'm doing now. It sounds kind of interesting, but I want to get back a little bit further. So I'm not formally educated, and I think that's important to state because I've worked really hard to get to where I am. And I actually started out in the car business as a finance manager.
Oh,
Actually,
wow.
I started as a receptionist and sort of worked my way up. I actually thought I was going to be a judge when I was younger. Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't do that. Yeah, so
Judge
glad that
Reesy.
didn't happen. Especially in banking, they do a lot of personality tests, and apparently I don't like a lot of detail. It hurts my brain, so that would have been bad in law school. But but because I could do lending, and again, everything that I've done in my opinion has led me to where I am. I guess is the point to all of this. So, I grew up in the car business in the 90s, which is a rough time to be a female, honestly. And I'm not one of those. I'm just saying it's a rough time. You have to put up with a lot of stuff as a female in the car business in the 90s. There was no Me Too stuff, there was
Sure.
You just do stuff. So, and that's okay, because it made me, tougher and a little more worldly. And again, while I had to put up with a lot of stuff, those fellas really took care of me. So yeah, I was a finance manager with like 25 men. I
Wow.
learned real quick how to be tough. And so because I knew lending, and I was tired of the hours of the car business, I answered an ad to become a licensed financial specialist in banking. And I got the job. I was like, holy, you know what? I can't believe it. Not sure if we can cuss on here.
You can. You absolutely can.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, I got this job. And I was like scared. And because you have to pass your Series 6 and 63 license.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had that whole like thing over me of like, you're not smart because you didn't go to college. But I passed the first time, became a licensed financial specialist, worked my way up in that organization. It was Wachovia Bank. I'm okay to talk about them now because they're no longer. And as banks do, they merged, as we know. And I had just been promoted to a regional manager in that bank. And I did not make it through because of my tenure. Tenure is a really important part. Performance is important, but tenure weighs in whether you make it through. Did not make it through. First time in my life I lost my job, I was devastated. But I got a pretty nice severance package, like 6 months of like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and I wanted another regional position because what I found was, so, after car business, staring at the same four walls, but being very busy, to now being a regional manager, traveling to branches that I really like being out and about. Like, you start to understand who you are. You get to that mid to late 20s, early 30s, you're like, yeah, I like being out. I wanted a regional position. I didn't want to go back into a branch. And so those positions, and I had to stay local because I had met my soulmate. After being married, this was the third time. But the first time we don't really count. It was like a year, and I was 19. So we don't count that one.
It was just a test.
Yeah. I mean, I was 19, and he was a Marine. That's how I got here. The second one I had to count, but I still stayed too long at the ball, as they say, for that one. But finally found this wonderful man, and he had 4 children, which initially I met him in the car business. And a gal comes up to me and says, "Hey, did you see the new man candy?" And I'm like that man candy's stupid. He's like 23 and has 3 kids. I don't like him at all. And away from him. And, years go by and we ended up becoming really good friends. Like he could, and at the end of the day, I had no idea that he was having marital problems, and everyone knew I was having marital problems. But so that's how I met him. But anyway, got into banking. We got together, and I needed to stay in this area because of the kids. And so finally found an amazing regional position with Susquehanna Bank. I don't know if folks remember that bank. I love that bank. It was a regional bank here in Central PA, and I had one of the best mentors that I ever had, and he's an amazing man, and I still continue to call him a mentor and friend. But then once again, banks do what they do, and mergers happen. And I had to terminate 23 people in one day. Yeah. And what stunk about it more than just the fact that it was 23 people was that because Susquehanna had these very tenured individuals, I'd been at the bank for 35, 40 years. I was meeting with people that would have qualified for like a 2-year severance package. Yeah. And I'm saying, hey, you get to keep your job. And they're like, no, I don't want to keep my job. They wanted the 2-year severance package and, to be done. So they're mad and upset. And then I'm sitting across from the single mom and saying, you don't get to keep your job. And it was terrible. It was a terrible day. I came home crying. I'm like, I don't understand this. This is horrible. And my husband said, come home. I'm like, okay, I'll come home. He had been self-employed for 9 years. I'm watching this man self-employed like golf 3 times a week. I'm like, maybe there's something to this self-employed stuff. He has a different business model than what I do. And he hence does not do that. His business has grown as well, but he has a different company called Better Shredders. And he sells shredding equipment to companies like the Mayo Clinic or he sold shredders to Facebook. Like these people. Oh, wow. I consider him to be one of the number 1 experts in the United States on data destruction. And when I say shredding equipment, I'm talking about, while he can do paper, I'm talking about hard drives, solid state memory, computer memory, that kind of shredding. So a company will call him and say, hey, I have this, what spec, I have this, I need to shred it to this level. What machine do I need? So under this umbrella, he has that. He has a company called Better Harvesting Solutions, which, believe it or not, the cannabis industry needs shredding equipment for how the stuff leaves the farm. And then he has a third one, and I promise this all comes together. He has a business called, you're like, where is she going? Better Densifiers, and where he has what they call a hot melt densifier for styrofoam. So styrofoam is one of the most littered things in the United States, or in the world, actually. It's because it doesn't decompose, for
Right.
one. Like, George Washington would have a styrofoam coffee cup. It would look the same today. So he has these three businesses, right? So sort of picture that umbrella. And under the shredding equipment, he used to outfit, and still does, trucks to do on-site data destruction. All over the country, people would pull a box truck up. He'd outfit it with a shredder so that they could go to a company and offer, I'm going to shred your hard drive solid state memory right here.
Right.
So, because as you can tell, I can't sit still, right? Like, okay. So he's like, let's get you a truck and you can sell data destruction. And because he was golfing 3 times a week, he had time to help me drive this truck while he was still running his business. So I'm like, yes, let's do that. And again, back to how your life kind of leads you. Because I've been in the York community, I was pretty well known, pretty well connected. Not to brag, they say it's not bragging if it's the truth, but been on a lot of boards, know a lot of people. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And I had sat across from the older person who'd had all their information stolen. I had been a part of ATM skimming things where the people, lots of stolen stuff. And so I was already passionate around making sure that information was protected. And what better way is to sell this service to companies.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so we spent $70,000 and got a truck, and we started Omega Data Security in January of 2020. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Good times. I mean, it was kind of good times. You thought for a minute, and it was like no one wanted to talk to me about shredding.
Yeah.
We all know what happened, and that was okay. In that it did give me more of an opportunity to learn more of the industry standards on data destruction. Like, I knew the importance, and I knew what he was doing. So, I kind of look at it again as a blessing. Fast forward a year, though, we're hearing that data destruction is becoming free. Like, okay, now we're in 2021, $1,000 sitting, storing it in this truck, and what are we going to do now? And honestly, I prayed, and I'm like, God, I cannot go back to banking, please. And I could go to some retail store, but I'd be bossing people around pretty quick. And so I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? And my husband reached out to a client of his down in Florida, and who he'd sold some equipment to, and said, hey, what are you hearing? And this man graciously said, I work with my wife like you do. Why don't you bring your wife down to Florida, and we will show you our whole business model.
Wow.
We like to pay it forward. Just get down here. And I was like, okay, God, I'm listening. Let's go. Let's go to Tampa in February of 2021, which was kind of like the Wild West. If you remember COVID back then, nobody in Florida was wearing masks, but it's still scary to fly. But we went, and we were already halfway there. The point is that we had the truck, the shredder. We just needed warehouse space, and we spent 3 days down in Florida, and we came back and we're like, yes, this is what we want to do. And I share that because it's a proven business model. This man had started in his garage with a pickup truck, and he now has 3 locations, 50 employees, and he recycles for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's a proven business model. And so we came back, and again, back to how life had prepared me. When you're in banking, Kobe, one thing they did really well was train. And just through those years of experience as well, but I learned a lot of business acumen from that. Just why businesses fail, how to look at a P&L sheet, all this stuff. So again, life is just going, okay, you're going a long path, but we're going to get you where you're supposed to go. And so we came back, and we started Omega Data Security, doing business as Omega Ecycles, LLC. So that's sort of how we were born, and we kept it under that same umbrella of Omega Data Security because it's less expensive just, as opposed to doing another LLC. But
Right.
also, we run a free business model. So I'm excited to tell everyone about this.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, like, I mean, I had other questions for sure, but when you hear the words free business model, that is wildly intriguing. So please take us through that. What do you mean? Is it actually free? Like, how does this work?
Yeah. So again, here we are. Omega Ecycles was born, and we follow basically the same business model as they do in Florida. But what we do is we will come to a business, um, and we will pick up your end of life IT equipment. That's really important because the word e-waste is wide and broad, and it is anything that has a plug in it. And we specialize in the IT equipment, but anything IT, from the keyboards to the laptops to the backup batteries. But we're
Wow.
not going to take your refrigerator. You see what I mean? So,
Sure. Yeah.
and or some of the other things that people try to get me to take. So we specialize in IT equipment. So we come to your business, pick up your end of life IT equipment. We bring it back to our warehouse. We do not even advertise where we're located because we're that serious about data. So we bring all that stuff back. We remove any asset identification tags. We pull all the memory, aka hard drives, solid state memory. We will then, each one of those drives has a serial number. We will barcode scan that so that we can create a certificate of destruction. We then shred those drives, not wipe. And there's a distinction in that. I believe in shredding. Okay, unless you're a forensic scientist and you can prove to me that you can't find anything on that wipe drive, I'm going to do shredding. Because when it goes through my shred, my machine, you're like, yeah, no one's getting that. So we shred them. We create a certificate of destruction, a certificate of recycling, and then, which just is like how much pounds like the client would have given us to recycle. So we shred the drives, we recycle everything else, and we do all of that for free. We're HIPAA compliant, and we're 100% woman-owned. So of course people go, how do you do that for free? Because I am not a nonprofit. So
Yeah. How do you do that for free?
yeah, we're super transparent about it because, again, when I created this business, what was important to me is, sadly, I had been through, again, back to some banks. They make beautiful mission statements and visions and values. And unfortunately, I had seen some of those things not be held true. And so when I started my business, it was really important that our mission and vision and what we do, that we stood by that, and integrity and saying what we were going to do, doing what we were going to say, all of those things was super important. So being transparent around like, okay, I'm not hiding how I get paid. So we work with what they call, in our industry, it would be called our downstream or R2, V3 certified recyclers who purchase those items from us in bulk. So a company could say, well, why don't I just reach out to them directly? And the reason that you don't is because they don't want, 100 laptops. They want a semi truck full of laptops. So my business is very much a volume business. So I need more stuff. And I will tell you that people have stuff.
Yeah.
And once we get a client, what I've found, which has been amazing, is we don't tend to lose them because it's free. I believe that we do a great job. And so once they experience that, they see that we treat their data appropriately, we recycle appropriately, they're getting all their paperwork, they're happy campers. I mean, we started out with 2,500 square feet of warehouse space, and we're up to 7,500 square feet.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
That's
I'm really
amazing.
proud of what we're doing. And I think we were, don't quote me, but I think it was about 250,000 pounds of e-waste last year. And the reason that's
Wow.
important is because people only approximately recycle 17% of e-waste, while our landfills are full of 70% e-waste. So we got to do better. We have to do better. So, at the end of the day, I say we're recyclers at heart, but data destruction experts.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting. So basically what you're saying is it's free to call you and say, hey, I've got a bunch of equipment that I need to be destroyed. come get it. And what you do is then you take that equipment and you fill up tractor trailers. And when you have a full tractor trailer, you sell it.
Correct. And we have specific partners. They have to have that certification.
Sure.
That part's important because that's the other thing when people are looking around what they're doing with their e-waste. Both the data destruction and what happens to the e-waste is super important because even in the best of worlds, some of that e-waste can end up in a third world country where little kids are walking around pulling the precious metals out of it, being exposed to the toxins. So that certification piece where it goes downstream, super important.
Sure.
So we make sure and deal with the appropriate people there. And then that data destruction, being able to do both the hard drives and solid state, also important because if those things aren't done appropriately, your data could end up in the wrong hands or your e-waste can end up in a landfill.
So that brings me to the next question is, so you've got the truck full, you've sold it to a reputable partner. What happens to it then once it's in their possession?
So, because that certification, if you go through and read it, if you want a good nap, you can read it. But it's long. So the regulation and God love them because like a small company like me, I can't afford to hold that certification. So they're big. They are big. What's called information ITAD companies, information technology and destruction companies. They're held to specific standards, but they can resell, repurpose, melt, so they can do all of that. But they're held they're held to standards where everything's first of all, we've destroyed the data already, so that's happened. But they can take the laptop and they can refurbish it and they can resell it because they're certified. I can't do that because I'm not certified. No, I don't want that responsibility, honestly.
Right.
So that's what they're able to do, and that's what makes them that, again, why it's not going into a landfill versus someone who might be taking toxic waste or hazardous waste and doing something differently with it than that. Or they might be melting it down. So we don't have just one downstream. So we have certain downstreams for different things. So some might be melting it down and pulling out the precious metals. Some could be doing what I just talked about, like laptops are often refurbished, that kind of thing, and et cetera. So it just depends on which company we're working with, but they're all certified. So they're held to that standard.
Okay. That makes sense. So you mentioned something earlier on that I really wanted to touch on because I feel very strongly about this considering I'm sort of in the same boat. You mentioned being uneducated. That was, I believe, the word that you used. And well, I hesitate with the word uneducated because what does that actually mean? Education can mean certain things to certain people, but in this sense, I gather that you're talking about having a degree. And
I say formally educated.
Formally educated, yes.
Yep.
A degree that someone would hold in high regard, qualifying you to do what you're doing. But here's the thing. I mean, doing what you are doing, creating this business model, going down to Florida, learning about all of this stuff, buying the trailer, I don't believe that there is any formal educational program available out there. And if there is, call me wrong and tell me I am. But I don't know that you would be where you are today and why would a degree, how would a degree help you in this situation is basically what I'm asking.
I got to tell you, it's interesting. I did an interview recently for a magazine, and they talked about success. And I am hesitant as well. So when I was in banking, and I'd pass my license for investments, and so often whoever you're sitting across might say, "I went to such and such. Where did you go?" And it's like, well, right here. I went right here. So I grew up really I grew up very poor and from family that I didn't understand that I could have potentially going to school completely free. And it wasn't just about the education piece. Understand, I didn't know that I could have gotten money for food and living. I had no idea because my parents didn't know. And unfortunately, the school that I went to, tiny little school in North Carolina, the guidance counselor did not do a good job of helping me understand what I could have. So I'm going to say that out there to make sure that because my dream is I'm going to eventually have a scholarship fund for girls like me who don't understand necessarily what they can do. Now, I'm going to put that over here to say, you're right. Like, what determines success? Is it that college degree? Well, I work with a lot of people in the car business. I work with a guy in banking who was doing investments who had a chemical engineer degree.
Wow.
Because, that's what you do. I mean, who knows, right? Like, so first of all, again, back to the whole judge thing. At 18, I had no idea who I was or what I wanted to do. Thank the Lord, I did not end up doing that. I mean, although sometimes I do feel like I can be all right at that, but I wouldn't have wanted to go through all that. So, when we had these children, the only reason that I probably pushed the issue around college with them was because as I was going through all of that, the only thing that I felt was a little bit of embarrassment. I do think some of that's going away. That shame, which I think is terrible because, again, look at me. Like, people are being shamed if they don't, but I think some of that's changing. I feel a little shift in the trade school is not so important. And then the only other thing was I probably was as far as I was going to get in banking without a degree. Like, that was a level. So there are some, for me, when we talk to our kids about college, because of course my husband didn't either. He didn't go to college either. And they're looking going, okay, you guys didn't go to college. I mean, you publish a book, you're in your business, but why go? And it was like, only because it limits you. I mean, for a short stint, I was a legal secretary back when they called it that. And because, again, I thought I was going to be a judge. So I had a little moment where I was like, I'm going to continue this path. And so taking paralegal courses, was going to kind of work my way up. And I worked for this law firm. We won't say the name. This was back when I was very young. And I could have had a degree in ditch digging. And then they would have called me a paralegal. But wait, I was allowed to do paralegal work and charge the client paralegal fees, but I was paid legal secretary wages, and I was never going to be called a paralegal in that law firm, okay, because I did not have that degree. And that sticks with me a little bit. And now I just want to, thumb my nose a little bit.
Yeah.
Look at this. So, yeah, I mean, I think there are some really great certification programs out there through some colleges, like adult education programs, that if there's an area that you're missing, something that you need, like, again, back to the Susquehanna Bank, I was really blessed in that my mentor had a basic understanding of accounting, but I took a college level accounting course, just that. So, looking for those types of things that are going to help you in what you
yeah,
know.
I agree with
and
that.
finding your passion too. My God, how many, I know that the listeners, you and I could probably sit here and listen to so many people that are not doing what their degree is. I mean, God loves someone who at 18 knows they want to be a doctor. Yay, we're so happy to have you. But I will proudly say that I was over 50 when I published my book and started this business and kind of figured out, like, oh, this is what I really, really want to do. So how in the world would I have known at 18? So yeah, I'm not a pusher of that education, other than it affected me that way. It held me back in areas.
I do agree. I think that, some certifications in areas of your business that you want to really specialize in, I think that's worthy. And I think especially, and maybe COVID actually helped move this forward. There's so many ways now to monetize things, for lack of a better term. And with all of these options available and the endless creativity that our minds can produce. I mean, that's what COVID did. It forced us all all to maybe change some priorities and make some different decisions, but it also forced us to get into our brains and pull out, I'm in a dire situation. How can I move forward and help my family move forward and provide? I got to come up with something. And that's what it did. And now we have all of these options and we're limitless. So I think that being able to make that decision at 18 I think that requiring that less and less is definitely a thing now.
Well,
For
yes.
sure.
I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of ludicrous. I mean, like, like 18, I'm going to tell you what I want to do for the rest of my life.
I know.
I just can't. I look at, I'm like, I can't believe that we force kids to do that and not give them an opportunity to test out things and see what else they might like. Especially, I wasn't exposed to anything. This tiny little town, I was supposed to like find a husband, have babies.
Yeah.
North Carolina. Find a husband, and maybe work, being an accountant. The fact that I was even saying that I wanted to be a judge in Eastern North Carolina in 1987 was like a big, like, oh my God, so.
I bet. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. There are very, very different areas in this country and the world. And where one thing works, another doesn't, and the same thing doesn't. And it just, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Before we hopped on to actually record, and I mentioned also when I read your bio that you are a motivational speaker, and you're getting into some spaces now where you are actually, speaking and talking passions and things like that. And we were talking about the subject of self-care and women and how there's so much on our plates. And I wanted to touch on this because you're not playing golf 3 times a week yet.
No, and he isn't anymore either. He tells me I work him like a rented mule. Well, he's like, "Oh my God, you're working me like a rented mule." I'm like, "That's right, baby.
Maybe it probably seems like that if you're going from 3 times a week down to, maybe 1 time a week. But
I have to give him Wednesday. That's his day.
And I don't want to go too far into this because I think this might be a subject for you to talk about at a future event. But the art of self-care and all the things that we're supposed to be doing, how do you juggle everything, being quote stepmother, unquote, and running your business and taking care of it. I mean, just spill it. Give me all your thoughts on the self-care thing.
Exhausted just thinking about all the things I'm supposed to do that have nothing to do with my business or my life. Nell and I were talking. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, I was thinking about this subject matter of self-care, and I'm like, these women, and God bless you. First of all, I would just give the disclaimers, and nobody has a heart attack. Good for you if you can find your self-care daily, weekly, whatever it is. I cannot. And, we could look for, there's a million people we can look at speaking and books we can read and all about finding that time for self-care and taking care of you. And it just stresses me that, out. Like, what? Okay, give me one more thing to do. I got to do what? Okay, I'm supposed to meditate every day, and I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and exercise, and then I got to drink all this water, and I've got to on and on and on. I'm like, oh my God, it is not when self-care becomes self-destruction. Maybe that should be the name.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Because it's like, it's the pressure, because the ladies, I feel the pressure, so again, good for those who don't. But I know that any women's groups that I go through, and I'm sitting beside, a lady that looks completely put together, and she's talking about how, she's, got up that morning and worked out and, made breakfast for her kids and her house is clean and, she's looking, her nails are done and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, I might hate you a little bit. I don't really. It's just jealousy.
No, but underneath it all, it's not. She is not put together.
Well, you hope a little bit. Like, I hope you're lying to me because, God, I'm feeling terrible right now. I'm feeling worse about myself since I walked in the door. I'd rather somebody come in and just be like, I'm a mess, And so, yeah, I cannot find that balance. And, perhaps it's my personality type too. I am who I am. My book is, the book I wrote is stripping off the labels, and I do really work still diligently on owning who I am. Like, I am a type A personality. And so maybe it's who I am, and I'm just never going to be able to balance that. And congratulations to all those who can. And I'm not going to read any more books about it, so don't try that. Don't give me another book to read about because that's just one more self-care I can't do. And so, so maybe just owning that and being okay with that at the end of the day is the best thing to do instead of stressing out and becoming, just crazy or for me, it's one more thing. I write a to achieve list. I don't call it to do. I call it to achieve. And sometimes even I'll write down like things that weren't on that list. I'll write it down just so I can put a check mark on it. And that's how that list goes. Just be like, yes, I did something today. It's one more thing on that list that if I don't get done, I am going to feel bad about. And I need to, I think I personally need to have things on there I can feel good about, because when you're an entrepreneur, and my husband really did teach me this. So kudos to him for this. He goes, honey, because I was just stressing in the beginning. He goes, that list is never going to be done. So stop. So I'm like, that's beautiful. And so I embrace that, and then quit putting things on there that if I get an opportunity to go get a pedicure once every 3 months, that's a great day, and let's be okay with that. And so I'm kind of working through this whole conversation because I don't feel like I'm alone now. I mean, I think there are other women that have to feel the way that I do, that are running a business, and yet they're feeling that pressure of like, where's your self-care? And then there's sometimes you're even spoke to that way, that it's in a shameful, like, where's your self-care? Well, you should. Well, first of all, if it's got the word should in front of it, we need to get rid of it, right? You should.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. If it's got should, you need to think, I should do this. Okay, wait. Is it in my best and highest good to do this? That's the question. Not I should.
Yes. Oh, right? That's amazing.
Hallelujah.
Oh, that right there is refreshing.
Passion. I have a lot of passion. I didn't even know. Thank you for igniting that in me, Nell. Apparently, I'm pretty hot about it.
That is getting cut out as a reel for sure. Yeah, I mean, my gosh, I think that if you want to use the term self-care, I almost feel like acceptance is the ultimate highest form of it. Because, I mean, really think about it. Self-care is an industry. It's a business.
Oh,
and
right.
we've got to sell the face masks. We've got to sell the bubble bath. We've got to sell self-care. If we didn't have to sell it,
my granddaughter is doing mask, little mask. She's 6 because she sees it
self-care.
No, she's doing it more than I'm giving her mine. I can't use it. You go ahead. Yes, it's a thing. These young girls are doing it. Yeah, it's a thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. My gosh. I think, if that's what your topic is going to be, I think you'll be a hit with everybody, because I mean, that is a real thing. And I love the idea for the title, when self-care is self-destruction. It really is. It's something that, yeah, you don't see the to-do list being totally crossed off and, oh, I didn't meditate today. Oh, I didn't. That causes that guilt feeling and the I'm not good enough.
Right. Like, how is this lady beside me doing all this other stuff and I can't do it? And it just feels, I've struggled with it, and it is, and then when I am doing it, like if I go and get a massage or whatever the case may be, I'm literally sitting there the whole time thinking about all the other things that I have to do.
And then it's not productive.
No. And so I do think that there should be some consideration, like you said, self-acceptance, and also defining what that is for you. If self-care is once every 6 months for you, great. good for you. That if it's every day, good for you too. But if you can't do it, but once every 6 months, or maybe it's once a year when you get that vacation, then just okay, that's great, good, you did that, right? So I'm as I think we all are, a work in progress. So I continue to try to find those opportunities for self-care, but I just have to stop the destruction around feeling bad that I didn't get to check it off my list when I got 10 business things left there to do. So
kudos to you. Well, Woo! I can't believe so, Reesy, this is the point in the episode where I do ask, because I have to believe that you probably have a killer What the Nell story. So do you have a What the Nell story for us? Something that leaves the listeners and the viewers thinking, what the Nell just happened here?
Oh my. Oh. I wasn't quite prepared for that way that you were going to ask. I can tell.
See, I knew you'd have one.
There's so many stories for me. I can tell you that I'm going to tell you a story about my past, about my first husband, and certainly a sign that I shouldn't have married him. Again, I'd love it if people would check out my book, because this is kind of in there. But so if you would meet me in person, you would know. And this is a label that I claim. I am prissy. Okay, I'm a prissy girl. And I'm okay with it, right? Like some people would label that negative, but I'm prissy. My husband knows it. My friends know it. I would be the first one kicked off as Survivor. Maybe I would make it through, charming my way through one episode, but I'm good, right? So this is about know yourself. So I'm dating this young Marine, who I happen to think at the time looks like, Tom Cruise. He does not, by the way, but in my mind, which is why at 19 I married him. But so he says he likes to hunt, and we're in eastern North Carolina. It's very flat, and there is a no lure law, which means that you can use lure to pull in the animals, which I think is really sad now that I fully understand that. But anyway, he wants to hunt fox. Okay. Yep, he wants to hunt fox. And so he says to me, 18-year-old Reesy, we're going to go in the dark, and we're going to, at the time, use a tape recorder, and we're going to play little screaming baby rabbits, and a fox is going to come out of the woods, and I'm going to shoot the fox. And I'm like, oh, you want to go out in the woods and make out? That's what I heard. Okay?
Right.
I did not hear all the rest of that story because I did not believe it was going to be true, that we were going to go sit in the dark, in the very dark. There's no ambient light where I live. Again, very flat, dark, North Carolina. I just thought, okay, let's go, and we're going to go make out. And so I go with him into the field, very flat field, and it is pitch black. Again, no ambient light. And he sits me, I'm sitting on a rock thing, and the tape recorder is beside me, and he is over further, and he begins to play the rabbits, this terrible sound. And I'm like, what the Nell? Exactly. I had other words, but my mind starts going, and I'm like, wait a minute. A, this is really happening. B, why am I sitting beside the tape recorder? Because if the fox comes out, he's going to come at me. If this is really true at all, because again, 18-year-old me's like, no, this isn't true. But it continues to unfold. And so it's sitting there, and again, my mind is just going, and my heart is 18-year-old girl is just, my heart is racing.
Yeah.
It's like the screaming rabbits. He's over there, and he's got the red light thing. He's scanning the whole field. And do you not know, here comes the fox.
Oh, gosh.
I was like, holy shit. Like, this is what? And so, of course, as the fox is coming, He shoots the gun. I scream. He misses the fox. This is such a disaster. And then
Oh
he's
my
pissed off.
gosh.
Yeah. Then he's pissed off at me. I'm like, what? So of course I cried, and yet now I still married him. Like it should have been the ultimate sign of like, do not marry this man. He's sitting you beside screaming rabbits in the dark in North Carolina.
If there's ever a red flag, that is it.
That is definitely what the Nell, and every other, there's a lot of words that go with that. And yet I still did not pay attention because I was 18. And yes, so that is one of my little stories that I share that is just, yes,
Oh my
like
goodness.
life lessons. Yeah.
Big
So
life
How
lessons.
do you like that?
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that story. My face hurts. I'm laughing so hard. That is incredible. So yeah, if you find yourself at a young age in a field, a very dark field with a man that's playing screaming rabbit noises, you should probably go.
You'd probably be like, red flag. Yeah.
Red
Don't
flag.
marry him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Reesy, this has been an awesome conversation today. I know you provided a ton of value for the listeners and the viewers, but where can people find you if they want to find out more about you, about your speaking, how to buy your book, or how to connect with your business?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Now, because I would tell you that just real quick that my definition of success is leaving a person or place better for having been there. So I hope that I accomplished that today, not just for you, but for your listeners. So that's super important to me. If I can just touch one person's life, that makes it, that's what my goals are these days. And so you can find me on LinkedIn at Reesy Neff. You can find me on Facebook, Reesy Neff. You can find me on Amazon on either stripping off the labels or by my name. Or you can also find Omega Ecycles LLC on LinkedIn and Facebook. Those are our right now at this moment anyway where we're mostly located. But yeah,
Amazing.
I'd love to. My book again is on Amazon, and I'm happy also if people reach out to send a signed copy to them. And I think
That's
people
very
would,
cool.
it's a memoir, but it's really about not letting the world tell you who you are or what you can do.
Love all of that. Well, I will
And
tell
I'm
you
hoping
all of
there's
those.
another one. I'm hoping there's one in the future. I'm thinking about it.
I'm sure there will be. Don't let us down. There has to be. All of those links will be in the show notes as well, so it'll be easy for people to link with. But Reesy, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your stories. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did.
Thank you, Nell. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone listening and watching. If you are on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. And if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, leave us a review. That's how we grow here at the What the Nell podcast. And thanks for listening. As always, I will catch you on the next one.
To learn more about how to tell your story, connect with Nell at enticingmedia.com. That's ENTICEING media.com. Thanks for listening to the What the Nell podcast.